how does she handling the fallback of time?
I don't think she really notices. I mean, she's like knocked out most of the time. And then if not, like she'll just like be playing in her room before we'll even come and get her. So like she's usually pretty good with the time changes and everything. So yeah, it's weird. It's definitely a little weird.
Yeah,
But I'm
you're
not complaining.
yeah, you're making parenting sound very easy, man. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
when she's up, she just hangs out by herself. We're totally fine.
Yeah, no, yeah, she's like everyone who like has ever like watched her is like, yeah, she's definitely like the easiest like child I've ever had to watch ever. So I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. And also, I can't complain about the fact that for the first time in 1 month, we get to talk about an Iowa win. And there is a lot to unpack with this game. Spencer Petras, we knew we had some injury potential coming into this game. He didn't look good. Now, to be fair, he hasn't really looked good for about a month and a half now at this point, or month. They take him out. They put Alex Padilla in. A very shocking turn of events for Kirk Ferentz in this Iowa offense. He gets in, and Alex Padilla, he looked pretty good. So we got to talk about that. The defense finally got pressure on the defensive line. Holy crap, it's been a while. But that defensive line was cooking last night in Northwestern. It did become a close game towards the end, so I want to talk about that as well. But let's start the big thing. Alex Padilla, Spencer Petras. Were you shocked to see Kirk turn to Alex late in the first quarter?
Uh yeah, because at first I didn't even notice it. I literally didn't even notice it at first because I was actually at the game. Because I
Oh,
mean
you're at the
it's
game?
yeah, so I mean
I mean, I guess it's in your
Northwestern.
hometown. Yeah, you're close to it.
Yeah, it's literally like right up the street. It took 20 minutes to get there. So I figured you might as well go. Like I didn't even notice it at first, that he was in. But I know that's something that Coach Ferentz very rarely does. So I figured, something had to be up. Obviously, Spencer wasn't able to play at all, really wasn't able to play at all. I mean, at throws that were in the dirt, um, just wasn't being effective, back there at all. So I mean, obviously to get some type of jolt to the offense, right, throwing Alex in there just made more sense. So I was shocked at first because I knew like that's something Coach Ferentz doesn't do. It's like obviously like guys hurt. Um, but I think Coach Ferentz just realized the situation. Like, so you gotta get someone else in there because we can't even move. We can't move the ball. We can't even throw a 5 yard out. Like we gotta have someone else in there who can make some plays.
Yeah, it was definitely shocking to obviously see Alex come in there, but and you don't want to you want Spencer to be healthy. I want Spencer to be in a good spot, but you gotta look at what Alex Padilla was able to do and be very very impressed with how he came into that game and was able to quickly pick things up, was able to make several throws. The offense looked like it was humming, and it just looked very decisive, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree there. And granted, Northwestern is not as a good Northwestern team as they have been in
They're
the past.
bad. We should be
Right,
clear there. It's not a
right.
good Northwestern
Yeah,
program.
yeah, yeah. It's not like we're last year, right? They had what? I think they had two first round picks last year, or something like that, or one.
Yep.
Their team, but uh, yeah, this is not the team that they had last year. That being said, right? I mean, the offense obviously needed something, needed some more energy. And having Alex in there provided that. I know we talked about the struggles of the offensive line, and yesterday they played better. They have the past few weeks. Again, defense wasn't as good as these other defenses, but the ability that Alex has to be able to move around the pocket and be able to do rollouts and throw on the run accurately was really, really, I think, a game changer for the offensive line, and them being able to protect Alex always back there. Because I mean, for the most part, it seemed like Alex had time to throw, and if he didn't, he was able to move around the pocket and be able to step up, find at least someone, at least find a receiver and be able to give them a chance to make a play on the football. So yeah, I know that was something that we talked about last week. And I know how I mentioned that I'm a fan of mobile quarterbacks. I mean, and because it just alleviates so much stress off your offensive line, especially the young offensive line that we have, the struggles that we've had, it just alleviates that pressure. They can't just put everybody up there and their ears back and go rush a passer because we have mobile quarterback, and then it also helped open things up in the run game, which we did see a lot of yesterday. We had pretty good success on the ground in comparison to basically what we've had in really the past month and a half, right? It feels like so.
Completely agree. I think when you mentioned being a mobile quarterback, the play that really sticks out in my mind is we're on the goal line. It's late in the first half. Alex Padilla does a rollout and actually looks like he could do the rollout, right? I mean, anytime you do a rollout with Spencer Petras, you have to be concerned about the backside defensive end just crashing on him and taking him down. Alex Padilla does a rollout and delivers a beautiful pass to Keegan Johnson on a comeback route. I mean, Alex was able to throw on the run. Spencer cannot do that. Spencer cannot get out of the pocket like that and have an actual threat of potentially picking up the first down with your legs or delivering a beautiful pass like that. The other thing you mentioned was being a little bit aggressive, taking a couple shots to Keegan Johnson down the field. We have not seen Spencer Petras be willing to throw those kind of balls. Now, maybe it's PTSD from last year. Maybe it's coach speak trying to tell him, be very careful with the ball, but you gotta challenge these secondaries, and you gotta put give your wide receiver some opportunities, which I thought he did that in this game, at least in those first 4 drives. Anything else you want to add to Alex Padilla before we get into what I think is kind of some interesting play calling in that second half?
Yeah, I mean, really, obviously, just give Alex a ton of credit for coming in there and making plays. Obviously, but the offense needed a jolt, and obviously, I love seeing him take some shots. Just give the guys a chance, right? I mean, you got good receivers out there, especially Keagan. I think he's really emerging as the best receiver on the team, to be quite honest. And giving him a chance, a couple deep shots, I think was huge. And he also even drew a PI. Like, I mean, that's going to be wonders for the offense, moving forward here. And obviously, he's still supporting Spencer and. I think he was obviously being a great teammate. But definitely excited for, Alex's progression that we'll see hopefully for these next few weeks. So,
yeah. Do you, so are you full in on the Alex Padilla Express train? Cause I am.
I mean, yeah, I mean, if he's in there, I mean, he's clearly, I mean, if you just look at it, I mean, this, granted, again, it's not like we put up 40 points yesterday. But, when he was in the ball game, it just seemed like the offense just moved better. It just moved better. Granted, Spencer could be hurt. I don't know what's going on. Again, I don't know what's going on with Spencer, whatsoever. But the offense just moved better with Alex in. And it felt like, at least in the first half, the play calling opened up a little bit more with Alex in as well. So I'm full in on it. Again, I support the staff 100%. But really, I think really at this point, I think it just makes more sense, just knowing the struggles that we've had, just to have Alex in there and really keep him in there for the rest of the year. So,
absolutely, couldn't agree more. I have one other point I want to touch on with Alex Padilla here in a second, but I do want to remind you all that Prize Picks is here, and it is freaking awesome for all of you college football fanatics out there. It is daily fantasy made easy. Prize Picks offers more college football props than anyone in the world, and they offer all the star players of the Power 5, as well as mid-major players you might not have even heard of. And they offer any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown. So if you had Andrew Marty and his over on interceptions, you probably hit, as Iowa took down Andrew Marty, got 3 interceptions in yesterday's game. Here's how it works, though. You pick 2 to 5 players, you pick an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10x on any entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers, and you can also combine sports as well. If you want to take some Iowa football players, combine them with some Iowa basketball players, maybe Keegan Murray in the points, maybe Alex Padilla and his rushing yard prop, go for it. Because you can do that at prizepicks.com. And right now, all of our listeners can get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 when you use the promo code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKEDON. Don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com and use that promo code LOCKEDON, or go to your app store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. And I want to thank you all again for making the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast your first listen every single day. You can listen to the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast for free wherever you get podcasts at, and also on YouTube by searching Locked On Hawkeyes. Before we get to Alex Padilla, a couple of things. I'm going to throw you for a loop here for a second, LeShun. First off, I want to say thank you to Arland Bruce as our first NIL deal. We got in the game. We had Arland Bruce supporting the show, and then he comes up big and has a touchdown run, which I want to talk about as well. Also, one of our sponsors is McDonald's. And LeShun, I have been having a conversation with my buddies, and they don't think I can eat 100 chicken nuggets in 2 hours. So we're talking a little bit about this, and I mentioned that McDonald's is now sponsoring the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast, and they said, why don't you do a chicken nugget eating contest with LeShun? So I wanted to bring that up with you. Would you ever be interested in having a live stream chicken nugget eating contest with me? And do you think you could win?
Of course, I'm in. I think first off, I think I would win for sure. 100 nuggets, 100 nuggets. I think that could do that. I think I could do that for sure in 2 hours.
Yeah,
that's more than enough time.
I thought so too. I thought, I was like, man, I could definitely do this, but they don't believe me. So we'll have a challenge. We'll set it up. We'll figure out some time, see if we can't get that going. Maybe get McDonald's to sponsor it even on the show. But I feel like you didn't give me enough credit on how much I can eat. But I'll take your diss, and I will raise you, and we will see what happens here, man. Anyways, getting back to the show. So Alex Padilla, I wanted to quickly touch on one other thing. So I've actually been in contact with Alex Padilla's quarterback coach back in Denver. Tim Jenkins, awesome guy. Follow him at Jenkins Elite. He's going to actually be getting the all-22 of this game and coming on the show to break down everything he saw from Alex in this game. I did want to point out one thing. You mentioned play calling, and especially I feel like those this first 4 drives Alex Padilla was in, I thought the play calling was really aggressive, and it was good from a running perspective as well. They weren't just saying we're going to run the ball right up the middle. We're going to tell you exactly we're running the ball based off of how we line up and how we have power on one side. They were doing some misdirection. I mean, that Tyler Goodson 40-yard dash before that second touchdown, I mean, that was misdirection with the tight end then pulling outside. I thought that was awesome. You saw a lot of motion jet sweep, even some play actions with that. I wanted to basically point out, I thought the play calling was phenomenal. I also thought they put Alex Padilla in a position to make big plays easy, right? Giving him one-on-one coverage slant to Charlie Jones. I mean, those are things that you take 3 steps, you fire it in as long as you make the right read. So I guess that's the last thing I wanted to cover on Alex Padilla. Any thoughts on that before we turn our attention to the second half?
No, I think that's really pretty much on point. How I felt like the first half went. So yeah, no, I don't have anything there.
All right, so the second half, I think this is where people get frustrated. I was telling you before, I'm in an Iowa Hawkeye Twitter DM convo, and not a lot of happiness after this game, which we win. I'm happy. It's Northwestern. Anytime we can survive versus Northwestern, I'll take the W. I didn't think it was going to be pretty. It felt like once Iowa got up 17-3, though, and granted, it very easily could have been 21-3. Keegan Johnson does drop that ball in the end zone. Thought he could have caught that. Thought he should have caught that, I should say. It felt like Iowa took their foot off the pedal and said, you know what? We're just trying to get out of here at the W. We're going to let our defense do its job, which it did. But it felt like Iowa got incredibly stale on offense after that. Do you feel like that's a product of Kirk Ferentz and his philosophy and just we do what we need to do to win? Or do you feel like the offense really did stall out? Northwestern made adjustments. Just wanted to get your thoughts on all that.
I mean, it's just it's a combination of both. Most of the time, it is a combination of both. I mean, you get into second half. You go down, you have the drive, right? You're up 17-3. I mean, Northwestern hasn't shown us anything that they've been able to move the football whatsoever. So it's like at that point, obviously, you're just trying to keep control of the football, not make any huge mistakes, not have any turnovers or anything like that. So, it's felt like though, like we were just being way too conservative, and it's almost like it felt like you get into a point where instead of trying to win, you're just trying not to lose, which, I get, right? I mean, you haven't had a win in like a month, so you're trying to do whatever you can to not, lose. But I mean, also at the other end of that, it's just like, you're not moving the football. The defense is going to be, the defense is going to be out there the entire game. Obviously, you got to give credit to Northwestern. They made some changes. They made some adjustments. They changed up a few looks on the defensive end. But I think it all still ends up coming back to us. And, just felt like, we weren't really just trying to push the envelope at all. I don't feel like we weren't, really trying to stretch the field as much. Obviously, there were a couple plays in the second half where we were trying to take some shots. We weren't able to hit on them. But really just felt like we were just playing not to lose in that second half. And, it almost bit us in the butt, right? Because then at the end of the game, end up getting really close. So it's I know it's a part of the philosophy, always has been, right? It's never a thing of, us just going out there and blowing out every single team every single week. It's just not, how it's done in Iowa football. But sometimes I do wish if we would do it like that and just go out there and just keep the foot on the gas and just keep, doing the things that we were having success with and keep trying to stretch the field and just, make the defenses, make the opposing defense, have to struggle to continue to defend us and obviously give our defense a huge break. Obviously, I know that we've been relying on the defense a lot this year. And, again, the defense has been doing a great job. But, as an offensive guy myself, I would love for us to just, continue to be aggressive and continue doing things to create big plays and create explosive plays, so we don't have to be in this many close games. So
I completely agree. As the great Herm Edwards says, you play to win the game. And I feel like we get in the second half, and like you said, we're playing not to lose the game, which 90% of the time actually works out for Iowa. I mean, their defense is good. It worked out last night, but I think Iowa fans across the board would say, we just want to be comfortable. I was at a comedy show, so I watched the first half on my phone. I was at a comedy show for the second half for a buddy's birthday, so I was like checking the updates. And then when I got home, I finally watched the rest of the second half on the TV and whatnot. But I was checking, like, oh my gosh, what is going on? Like, am I gonna sit here and all of a sudden be so pissed off while I'm watching a comedian? Like, that could very well be happening here. But it also puts Iowa in a bad situation that they're playing so conservative. But if they do make a mistake, there's not a lot of wiggle room for that mistake. The blocked punt is a great example that Iowa's defense holds strong. But what if they don't? That block punt could have been a huge shift there, and Iowa doesn't have a lot of room to really take that on the chin and say, you know what, that happened. Fine, we get 7. Let's go on and let's continue playing offense. It's frustrating to watch it, but it is what it is, and I don't think it's going to change. It's been that way ever since Kirk has been here. Really, I mean, that is the philosophy. It is what it is at this point. I would like to have seen us take a bit more shots, though. Northwestern is not a very good rushing defense team. They're one of the worst rush defenses in the entire country. Before this week, I actually predicted, Tyler can maybe go 150. I thought Gavin can maybe go 50. It's actually pretty close on that. Tyler went 140. Gavin went 40. Wanted to get your thoughts on Gavin running the football, though. Really our first extended time of seeing Gavin with the ball in his hands.
Yeah. It's always fun when young guys get in there and, have extended playing time. And, I thought I did a pretty good job. Again, I didn't have like an end zone view, so I couldn't see, like the holes and everything. But I mean, for the most part, it seemed like he was making the right reads. Most of the time was running with good pad level. So, it's exciting to see young guys get in there and, have a good day. I mean, averaging over 4 yards a carry is again, that's big for your football team. So he's definitely has some ability, for sure. So I'm excited to see him, continue to grow and get better and better each week. And obviously yesterday was obviously a start to that. So I'm really excited for his development because obviously he seems like a good player. The coaches trust him, to be out there, which is another huge factor. I mean, to be a young guy and be able to be out there and, have the coaches have that trust in you is huge.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought he played pretty well. The moment was not too big for him. And Tyler Goodson, I mean, you know this better than anyone. Running backs have such a short shelf life. There's only so many opportunities you have. Tyler Goodson could very well be looking at the NFL this year. Maybe not as much. I know his draft stock, I think, has dropped a little bit, for better or for worse from an Iowa perspective. So he may be coming back, but if he doesn't, I would say we're in good hands with Gavin. LeShun Williams behind him is a guy to also watch out for as well. He's a guy who I think has a lot of potential. Ivory Kelly Martin could also be coming back for what would be, I feels like he's been there for a decade at this point. I mean, he's basically our version of Mohamed Ibrahim back in Minnesota. But the running game, I feel like, is in good hands even after Tyler Goodson leaves. I'm kind of getting back to some of the more traditional one cut, pound the hole, find the hole, that kind of stuff. I want to talk more about that and some of our younger guys as well. You mentioned Keegan Johnson maybe is the best wide receiver we have right now, but I do want to tell you all about Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market today. If you haven't tried a Built Bar by now, why not? You are missing out. Please let me know. DM me. Let me know why you aren't trying a Built Bar, and I will personally send you a box of Built Bars. I sent them over to LeShun. LeShun, you seem to like them. I personally love them. I eat them all the freaking time. The USA track and field team eats them. So clearly they're pretty good, and they're also so good for you. They have so many flavors. They're also low carb, low calorie, low fat, low sugar, and high in protein. So all the healthy benefits on top of just being purely delicious. So many flavors, all amazing. Also, another thing about Built Bars, they have so many great flavors like coconut, raspberry, mint brownie, coconut almond, salted caramel, double chocolate, and cherry barcia. And they're coming out with new flavors every 3 to 4 days. So even if you tried it before, you might not have tried some of the new flavors coming out today. So go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15. And you'll get 15% off your order. Use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. So I want to talk about the defense a little bit, but first, the younger guys. We mentioned Keegan Johnson might be one of the best wide receivers on this team. I would argue maybe, like you said, maybe the best wide receiver on this team. And it's not like it's a lacking talent wide receiver room, right? Charlie Jones is a good wide receiver. Nico Reganey has had his spurts. Tyrone Tracy had an unbelievable redshirt freshman season with Amir Smith-Marset and Brandon Smith. We've seen this happen in recent history. Amir Smith-Marset and Brandon Smith both played as true freshmen, but it feels like, and maybe this is just recency bias, Keegan Johnson looks more mature, more prepared, and is at a higher level than where we had Amir Smith-Marset and Brandon Smith at as true freshmen. What are your thoughts on that? And also maybe even Arland Bruce I would throw in there. Looks like he could at least be right in line with those guys, both NFL players at this point. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Yeah. I mean, Keegan is, he really is a phenomenal player. I think, doesn't he have like a brother, like it's in the NFL, I think?
Yeah, his
for
he played at
Seahawks,
South
I
Dakota
think.
State, and now he's I
Yeah.
think he's on the practice squad maybe.
Yeah. So, obviously he's coming from a football family. And, when I look at him out there, again, he's out there making contested catches, right? He's winning one-on-ones. He's breaking tackles. He's doing everything from a receiver standpoint that you want from, a big-time receiver, and then some, right? I think a lot of things that we've kind of touched on, in past weeks is just his ability to run after the catch, and how he's basically like a running back when he has the football in his hands, which again, it's a huge weapon because when you have superstar receivers, those are things that they can do, right? When they can catch the football and do something after they catch it. So really, Keegan has put together the entire package, I think, at this point. Obviously, he's had drops, right? He had the big drop in the end zone yesterday, and he had a drop for sure against Wisconsin. But again, those come with young guys, right? But I love his ability that he has when he does catch the football, or even when he's given a chance, just because he is, with his speed and his strength, and it's basically just his athleticism in general is really, really huge. And it's something that, hopefully we will continue to take advantage of because of that really ability that he has. And he has that game breaking ability, which something, as far as a receiver position, is something that we really need to really help our success. And then obviously you got to give credit to Arland Bruce as well, another young guy who does great things with the ball in his hands. It's almost like, they're trying to use him as almost like a hybrid, like running back receiver type guy. And he has that sort of build and does a great job, again, breaking tackles, using his speed and agility to be able to get the edge and, create mismatches. So I love the future when it comes to, those two guys in the receiver position. And, hopefully, we can continue to get more guys like that. So,
yeah, couldn't agree more. I want to highlight Arland on that end around. first of all, Monty Potterbaum had a phenomenal block. I mean, he was just owning the heck out of his guy. Keegan Johnson also had a nice little block as well. But there were two guys closing in on Arland, and he set them up. I mean, he kind of went inside just for a little bit and made them try to go get him. And he actually then went around Monty, and they couldn't get to him. That's why he was able to break that tackle, because they weren't able to get a clean shot on him. And then also his ability to stay up, low center of gravity, putting his hand on the ground to keep his balance, and then getting into the end zone. I mean, these are not true freshman plays. I mean, and Iowa doesn't like to rely on true freshmen, but there was a lot of times in that game where we had two wide receiver sets running, 21 personnel, and we had Keagan and Arland as the wide receivers. So, I mean, clearly the staff is really starting to rely on them. They are gaining the trust of that team. And it's also worth noting that Alex Padilla has taken most of his snaps with those two guys, because those were the second string guys. So expect them to get more playing time and also have more opportunities as the season progresses, especially if we stick with Alex Padilla. Now, I mentioned the tackling was not very good on Arland Bruce, mostly because he set them up for that. Iowa's tackling was also subpar at best in this game. I mean, there were several times where Iowa could have stopped Northwestern on a third down, and they made some good plays. That Evan Hull touchdown. I mean, this, when you think of Iowa, you don't think of explosion. You don't think of explosive offenses. You don't think of putting up 45 points a game. You think of fundamentals. You think of, we're going to run the ball. We're going to play sound defense. We're going to play great special teams. And when you think of fundamentals, you think of tackling. What is going? I mean, it's been kind of an issue this year. I feel like they have struggled against shifty running backs, decent running backs. Evan Hull is a good running back. Let's give him his credit where it's due. But Iowa struggled mightily tackling, especially in that second half.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little frustrating to see, because I mean, I know there was a couple games right this year we've had trouble tackling, like the Colorado State game comes to mind immediately. And then, obviously the Purdue and Wisconsin games, and then, this week as well. It almost feels like the defense kind of lost their swag during that Purdue game, if we're being quite honest. And it just feels like they just haven't been able to get back to it. Right. I mean, again, yesterday we made a whole bunch of plays on defense, right? 3 interceptions. That's huge from, a team perspective. Anytime you can turn over the football, no matter where it's at, it's big time. But it feels like, kind of like that swag and that juice is kind of faded away a little bit. And, the defense is just almost, they just haven't felt like how they felt like earlier in the season. And I don't know what needs to be done to kind of get that back. Hopefully, creating all these turnovers yesterday is going to help, jolt them a little bit. But yeah, it just really feels like, tackling has just not been something that, we've been really too detailed on lately. And, there's a lot of broken tackles. Like the one I'm thinking of specifically was when it was like the 4th and 1, where first off, the guy was short, but whatever, the guy was short, but they had him like tackled like 3 yards in the backfield, right? There's like 2 guys that had him like tackled 3 yards in the backfield, breaks both those tackles. And then obviously give credit to that kid, right, for, his effort and
keeping his legs moving,
but still, right? I mean, you got a guy, dead to rights, and, he breaks through those tackles, is able to push forward and get a first down. And that's just something that I just can't think of, Iowa doing, right? I mean, there's few times where I've seen it, where things like that have happened, like the Big Ten championship game is the one that immediately comes to mind.
Yeah.
Every single time. Every time I see a play like that, I'm like, that's the Big Ten championship play. Every single
that play
time.
scars me. I can only imagine how much it scars you.
It's literally like replays in my mind, like from my position, POV on the sideline. I'm just like, oh my God. But that aside, right? I mean, that's literally what I saw at that play, and it's happened, multiple times throughout this year, where again, teams have created big plays from, us just not finishing the tackles, right? You have the opportunity there. So I don't know what we got to be able to do. What we got to do on the defensive side. Again, I'm not a defensive coach. I didn't play defense at the Division I level. But figuring out what we got to do on that side is we've got to make a change to make sure that we are making these tackles and are getting guys to the ground. Because again, we got 3 teams left on the schedule who, have won some big time ball games and have good players on the offensive end. So it's only going to be more and more important that we focus on that and really have that want to and of going in there and wanting to make this tackle and secure tackles, because again, not every play on defense is going to be a huge turnover play. So if we can keep our fundamentals up and make the routine plays, again, it's going to help us in these last 3 games.
Absolutely. Especially so the like that 4th and 1 play. Those are, I mean, I don't think people realize like how big of a momentum changer that almost seems to be, right? If you stop him in the backfield, not even, I mean, if he gets down at the 4th and 1, he whatever, fine. But if you stop him in the backfield, 3 yards deep, I mean, that is a play that gets people pumped up. It gets people ready to roll. And on the flip side of that, when he breaks those tackles, gets that first down, that is a huge momentum swing in the opposite direction for Northwestern. It's just tough to deal with. I would agree with you. I feel like the last 3 weeks, so we're finally, it feels like we kind of got some of it back maybe against Northwestern. Now, granted, Northwestern, a very bad pass blocking team. Andrew Marty's only his 2nd time of really playing extended snaps for Northwestern. He's probably their best quarterback, but still the only 2nd time. Northwestern just not a good offense overall. But it felt like we got a little bit back, but you're absolutely right. It doesn't feel like, it feels like we're forcing things right now. We're pressing on the defensive side of the football. It'll be great to see what happens when Riley Moss comes back. I felt like Jamari Harris had a pretty good game overall, but Riley Moss is Riley Moss. There's a reason why he has been projected as a late 2nd round draft pick to this point by some NFL draft scouts. It'll be great to get him back in that starting lineup. I'm really excited about that. I do want to note, this Northwestern team came in very good running attack. That's the only thing they really had going as a bright spot. Iowa held Evan Hull to 41 yards, to 3.7 yard per carry average. So overall, pretty good there in the rushing defense department. You mentioned the upcoming games. This is a weird slate of 3 games. Minnesota, I can't tell what's going on with Minnesota. I don't know how you go to Illinois and lose, and then we get Illinois after that. Illinois is really, really confusing me. It seems like when they have won, what they've done is they just say, you know what? We're rushing the football down your throat every single play with Chase Brown. Have fun, try to stop us. And if it works, we're going to win this game. If it doesn't, we're screwed. And it's worked against Minnesota. It worked against Penn State. So that scares me a little bit for Iowa. And then Nebraska might legitimately be the best 3-win team I've ever seen. I mean, by every advanced metric, they should be 7-2, 6-3. I mean, like, what? Nebraska is a scary team. So, what are your thoughts on the remaining schedule, and also how much do you hate Minnesota?
I really can't stand them, and like they have their all like the we hate Iowa thing, and it's annoying. And like, first off, they'll blast that like throughout the locker room the entire week, and it just drives me nuts. Like by the time you get to the end of the week, you're just so tired of hearing it hit. And then like every single year, you're always hearing about, oh, is this like the best Minnesota team and this and that and all this stuff, and really just can't stand it. Can't stand them. So that's always a game.
Do they really blast "We Hate Iowa" in the
like
Iowa
they'll do like their little like what year? I think it might have been 2015 and maybe 2016. Like they were like playing like their like little hype video or whatever throughout the locker room and all this stuff, and it was just driving me nuts, driving me insane. Because you remember like in 2015, like the year before, they beat us by like 50. So like they do whatever you can, like for really any rivalry week, but especially like the Minnesota. And I know like the staff can't stand Minnesota either. So basically do whatever they can to get us up and ready for that one for sure. So yeah,
how pissed off are you by the end of the week? Like, are you like, I'm gonna kill every Minnesota player on this team? Like, let's roll.
Yeah, like you're like by the time practice is over at Wednesday, you're just like, okay, like we got to get to Saturday, like now. So we're always sick of Minnesota. We can't stand those guys. So granted, we've been beating them we haven't lost to them since 2014. So,
Yeah.
obviously got to keep that streak going. But yeah, I mean, these are good football teams that we have in front of us. Obviously, Minnesota has great wins, then they have terrible losses, like the one
Bowling
yesterday
Green.
in Bowling Green, like awful losses. But again, they have a good football team, so we're obviously gonna have to have a great week of practice and show up on Saturday ready to roll because they're gonna be ready to roll. Because again, I think this is gonna be like what the second or probably third class that hasn't beaten Iowa yet. So like they're gonna be juiced up and ready to go and try to come into Kinnick and get a huge win after dropping this one against Illinois yesterday. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, we can't stand Minnesota at all.
I love that. Is Kirk as salty as he seems about PJ Fleck? I mean, last year had some drama. Figured we'd leave the timeouts here and take the pig with us. So, is he as salty as it seems about Minnesota? I mean, it feels like he also doesn't like Minnesota and also maybe hates PJ Fleck.
Yeah, so I don't really know as much about the PJ Fleck, but like it's like how he feels to him as much. So I want to say I don't even know if PJ Fleck was he there when
I don't think he
I
was
was
there
there.
when
I
you
don't
were
think it
there.
was. It was probably the year after, right?
Hmm.
2017 was his first year there.
Yeah, let me
Um,
check.
I think so. But all in all, I know that he can't stand Minnesota. Every single time we play Minnesota, we have our team meeting. Um, our team meetings like before, like at the beginning of the week and all this stuff, and he'll go on tangents about Minnesota and all this stuff, and then like we always like play like highlight tapes or like clips from like old years of us playing Minnesota. It's like this is what Iowa football looks like and this and that when we play Minnesota and all this stuff. So yeah, he's definitely a guy who doesn't like Minnesota, and really none of the staff does. Obviously, I know Coach Brian doesn't um like Minnesota at all because again, same household, so it kind of carries through, and I think it permeates through the rest of the coaching staff as well. So yeah, it's always a good one.
Do you I'm kind of getting off subject here, but do you feel like having so many people on this staff that understand the Iowa way and played for Iowa and have been a part of this program for so long also helps even more so make these rivalries even more important? I mean, like you look at LeVar, you look at Brian Ferrin. I mean, like there's a lot of guys on the staff who have been a part of this team for a long time. Do you feel like that helps as well?
Yeah. Because I mean, I feel like it's just like easier for them to speak, to the players and speak to the guys. Like, hey, like when I was playing, which wasn't too long ago, right? 15, 20 years ago, like it was still the same. Like we still couldn't stand these guys. This was always a game that we're always ready for, always really excited for. Anytime you have a rivalry game and you have a trophy, to be able to go up and win is always a huge opportunity. And when the coaches can speak from their own experience and of being in these rivalry games against a specific team, playing for the team that you're playing for, it definitely helps. I feel like a little bit.
I
Um,
love it, man.
so
That's super cool. So final, I got way off topic on everything here. Last question for you, and then I want to see if you have anything to say about the game. Ryan Field. Do you have any horror stories about how bad Ryan Field is? And also, what was the percentage of fans yesterday, Iowa versus Northwestern? Because I mean, there's a lot of Iowa fans that live in Chicago. Northwestern doesn't have a big fan base. What are your thoughts on all that?
uh, I'll answer that one first. First, it was like 70-30 Iowa fans. It was ridiculous. I don't know how they even host home games. Like it's literally the entire opposing team like every single time. And yeah, most of the people there were Iowa fans. And then I don't have any horror stories. I only played there once, and technically I didn't even play because that was back in 2015, and I was still dealing with the high ankle sprain. I dressed, but I didn't play. And that was the game where Jordan got injured like early in the game, and then Akram and D Mitch went off that Saturday. So I don't have any horror stories from that field really. I mean, the grass is weird. The grass is like high. It's not like low cut, and it's just I don't know. It's almost like reminding me like a high school stadium. Really, it's I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird place. Small locker room. I don't really have anything positive to honestly say about there. Like there and Purdue are probably like the worst hands down like the worst stadiums in the Big Ten. They're both terrible. The fields are both bad. But no, I don't have any horror stories. I mean, the one time we did play there, we won by like 30. So like, I don't have any complaints about there at all. So
Love it, man. And any final thoughts? I digressed significantly. Any final thoughts on the Iowa Northwestern game before we wrap up?
no, I mean, I think obviously like on the defensive side of the football, we got to get some of our swagger back. Hopefully that, after our performance yesterday is going to help us get that back and hopefully carry it for the last 3 weeks. I know special teams wise, Coach Woods is probably giving the punt team, an earful today about having that blocked punt. So I know that that's going to be shirt up away. And then, I'm just anxious to see what we're going to do on the offensive end. I think Spencer had to have been hurt in dealing with stuff. So it's looking like it's probably going to be Alex's show, for the rest of the year. So I'm anxious to see how does that change our play calling? How does that change, us getting our skill guys involved in the football game outside of Tyler. I'm really anxious to see that moving forward. But that's really all I got. So I'm just excited for this next week. Rivalry week, always huge. So hopefully we'll come out, rocking and rolling. And as always, go Hawks.
Hell yeah, man. Couldn't agree more. It'll be very interesting to see what happens throughout this week. Kirk already said he's going to look back at the tape, see what he wants to see in terms of Alex versus Spencer. I don't know how you don't make the choice to at least try Alex, and you can put it under the guise of Spencer being injured. He is injured, but you can say he's maybe a little bit more banged up. Give Alex a chance. So that way you're not putting as much pressure on Spencer there. Regardless, anyone out there listening to this, don't be hating on Spencer. He has sat back in the pocket and gotten just the living hell beaten out of him this entire year. And he stood up and against the media and is talking and been honestly incredibly mature in his approach throughout the last 2 years. And he's led Iowa to a lot of great wins. So even if we are excited about Alex, which I think we both are, we're excited about what that potential is for the Iowa offense. That's no reason to hate on Spencer Petras. He's still a young adult playing college football at a high level. So anyways, that is my rant for the day, LeShun. As always, it is a pleasure talking about Iowa football. Apologies for digressing us significantly, but I enjoyed how much you hate Minnesota. That gets me pumped up for this game as well. And as always, Hawkeye Nation, make sure to tune into the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast Monday through Friday. You can also get more Big Ten news by tuning into the Locked On Big Ten podcast with Nate Dickinson. He brings on guests every single day, so you can find that wherever you get our podcast at as well. Have a fantastic Sunday, and even better rest of your weekend and a week upcoming. And as always, let's go Hawks.